Hi PwC, thank you so much for volunteering to be a judge. I'm going to try to keep this brief as we go over our process and then a few notes about the rubric itself. So, getting right into it. So all of our materials are going to be in a shared folder on Google Drive. We'll walk through that folder in just a moment. The link is provided in the email from which you found this link, but then also in this presentation itself. So your first step is to watch the presentation videos that you've been assigned. That schedule is at the end of this presentation. Second step is to ask some clarifying questions on a shared doc directly with the students that you are evaluating. If you've been an in-person judge with us in the past, you know that part of the process is asking questions after the students conclude their presentation. So this is just an adaptation of that format. And the students will be answering you, so you're going to take in their answers before moving on to step number 3 to complete the nifty rubric. So this rubric is not a shared document because it is only meant to be seen by Nifty to tabulate a final score and then also shared with the Nifty teachers so that they can give feedback to their students. So we're going to ask you to download this PDF from the shared folder, complete it on paper, and then hang on to it. I will be giving some email instructions over the weekend to get that to me and hand in your final scores and have a little bit of healthy deliberation. The fourth step is to complete the feedback form, and this is a shared document to be seen by students back in that shared folder, which we will take a look at in a second. And then the last step is to engage in that deliberation and communication of final scores in an email with me. So now let's take a look at those materials. So when you enter the folder, when it loads, you'll see that each student has their own folder. There we go. So each student has their own folder. There's this training, there's our overview that was sent earlier, an additional copy of the rubric, but you'll see that there's a rubric inside each student's folder as well. So let's just take a look here in our student folders. So we have numbers that correspond to your step in the process. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to watch Tamia's video here. Secondly, you're going to ask her some clarifying questions. So let's open this up. We see that it has her name on it. Each presentation is going to be seen by 2 judges, so you're going to make sure you type your judge name here. You're going to ask 3 clarifying questions, and then Tamia is going to answer your 3 questions. And so each judge is going to fill out their own table. So really make sure, please, that you put your judge's name in the correct row. Then you'll see, thirdly, you have the Nifty rubric. So this is just a generic rubric. This is where you're going to download the PDF and go ahead and fill this out on paper. Make sure that you put your name and make sure you put the entrepreneur's name here so that we can keep these all correctly filed after the fact. And then lastly, you have your feedback form, which looks a lot like the clarifying questions. So you again see you have your student's name, then you should be writing your own judge name here, giving them 3 comments about things they did well and 3 suggestions for improvement. So again, each judge is going to be working from this same document, but they're going to be filling out their own table, and students will be working from this same document for the clarifying questions and then just receiving your feedback directly from this shared folder, which they will have access to as well. So I do just want to stress that point that students have access to this folder, so they will not, they should not be seeing their rubric that is scored at this stage. So please hang on to those. Do not upload anything to this folder until I email you. I'll ask for those in email. So going back to our process here, looking at the timeline, today we have the 17th. This counts as the material release. You have all of your links here. I am asking that you guys review the videos and ask your clarifying questions by close of business on Thursday the 19th. Remember that those clarifying questions are done directly on the Google Doc. Students will be answering the clarifying questions by the end of the day on Friday. And then I will initiate an email with each team, and we'll see those teams in just a moment, to initiate a deliberation and do some final tallying and hand in those rubrics. Speaking of rubrics, when we were back in our materials, we had a rubric. It's a pretty standard looking rubric. You have some statements here that help you to decide if a student has met, exceeded, or not met their expectations for that part of their business plan. It is also correlated to their different slides. One of the things that's nice about this video format is that you can go back and rewatch portions to see if those metrics are met. But there are a few things that I do want to highlight. So in terms of feasibility, a lot of judges have asked in the past, are we looking at for if it can work in general or if it can work right now for the student who's standing in front of us? We really want to lean towards can it work in general. We never want to discourage our students from dreaming big. So we really want them to show us that they understand how businesses work in the full scope of different types of businesses that one can have. So again, for feasibility, we're focusing on whether it can work in general, not if this very student sitting in front of us through the screen could start this business right now. For financials, we are looking at the reasoning and research behind the numbers rather than that particular student's ability to raise those kinds of funds. Again, allowing students to dream big and allowing them to demonstrate that they understand how business financials work, not necessarily proving that they can raise that kind of capital to start this business. Third thing, looking at scalability, our program very much tries to create a space where we are enhancing the local economy and creating economic justice. And a lot of our students are very inclined towards local businesses, and we want to make sure that that space is also honored. So a lot of times there can be a push for how does your business scale? And though that can be an important conversation in business planning, it is not a requirement for Nifty business plans. If a student has a plan that can succeed and sustain as a small business but does not have dreams of getting bigger than that, that is absolutely okay. We are trying to provide inroads for our students to create healthy lives for themselves and their loved ones and their communities. First and foremost, we're not looking necessarily for them to start the next big thing, although if that's what their dream is, that's great too. But we don't want to hold any students back for aiming for sustainability. So looking at the schedule, I mentioned teams before. You can see here that each judge is paired with another judge to review the same presentations. This is so that they can have some conversation and deliberation, and so that students are evaluated by more than one judge. So I will be initiating some emails between these teams. So Madeline and Jennifer, you will get an email from me as a team. Vikram and Margaret, you will get an email from me as a team. And then Angela, you and I will be a team reviewing the presentations that are outlined here. So that is it. Thank you guys so much for your help and your time. I'm available for questions. This is my Super Bowl season. So even if you are working on this at night or in off hours, I promise you I'm working also. So feel free to just reach out, and thank you guys again so much.